Dignity.
Voice.
A right.
Awareness.
Power. A human right.
Enrichment.
It is a duty.
Tolerance.
Rights.
Self-determination.
A right.
Fairness.
Just make the things in peace, you know?
Your voice matters. You have the right to say what you think, the right to share information, and the right to demand a better world. You also have the right to disagree with those in power and to express your opinions in peaceful ways.
Studio Star. Studio Star. Studio Star.
Hi, I'm Joana Guerra Tadeu, a Portuguese journalist and activist dedicated to creating content on climate justice and human rights. And I'm here to introduce you to Studio Star, an European project of the network of Council of Europe's quality-labeled youth centers. In this project, young people from different countries go through a creative process and make their voices heard about human rights. In this episode, we hear youngsters from Braga's youth center about the right to freedom of expression, how far that freedom should go, and what value this human right has in their home country, Portugal. This European podcast series, made by young people from as many as 11 countries and 14 youth centers, is launched in light of Human Rights Day on the 10th of December of 2023.
Studio Star.
How governments and institutions tolerate unfavorable views or critical voices is often a good indication of how they treat human rights in general. And they cannot abuse their authority to silence peaceful dissent by passing, not abolishing, or supporting laws criminalizing freedom of expression. The right to freedom of expression is enshrined in Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in broad terms, and it was later protected legally by a raft of international and regional treaties and national legislation. In Portugal, we celebrate 50 years of this right being a reality in 2024. Our country went through dictatorship and censorship until the revolution of April 25, 1974. The right to freedom of expression and information is now defined in Article 37 of the Portuguese Constitution, stating that 1. Everyone shall possess the right to freely express and publicize their thoughts in words, images, or by any other means, as well as the right to inform others, inform themselves, and be informed without hindrance or discrimination. 2. The exercise of these rights shall not be hindered or limited by any type or form of censorship. 3. Infractions committed in the exercise of these rights shall be subject to general principles of the criminal law. And 4. That every person shall be equally and effectively guaranteed the right to reply and to make corrections, as well as the right to compensation for damages suffered. The right to freedom of expression also underpins other human rights, such as the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion, and is closely linked to freedom of association and freedom of peaceful assembly. Let's reflect on this as we hear from more than a dozen youngsters from various youth organizations.
I would say that freedom of expression is inherent to being a thinker.
The right of it is to express your opinion, your ideas, your concepts that you have on your life related to all the topics without any barriers of it when you are talking about your personal opinion. Depending on it, you can have and express it, always taking into consideration the barriers and the people that are around you or the institutions that you represent, because that is the important thing of the right of speech.
Self-expression is the best way to share the knowledge.
I use freedom of expression to appeal to causes that I believe are important for society as a whole, such as sustainability, animals protection, and the rights and duties of everyone.
Speaking out against injustice and promoting a positive way of living.
I think freedom of expression is essential to foster open dialogue, promote critical reflection, and in the sense that it also celebrates diversity in the different worldviews that people have. So it's a great way to allow for the interchange of different ideas, different perspectives. And I think that in the long term will contribute towards common respect, common understanding, tolerance, acceptance, and also the enjoyment of other human rights, because they are all interconnected, right?
I think, at least in my work, I work as a researcher, is promoting and facilitating initiatives that for people that are usually in more vulnerable position, and using my privileged voice to give them one.
You know, the anime One Piece have the character Luffy, and he, for me, is the real meaning of freedom. The freedom of expression is everywhere, because if we don't have the freedom, we just are robots, you know, programmed to do one thing and never do another thing. And we are humans, we need to express ourselves and be free, you know, because if we are not free, we are just like an animals, I don't know.
Freedom of expression comes with listening the other and to have the opportunity to exchange opinions with each other, and that's the best way that you can improve yourself, because you listen a lot of viewpoints, and when you improve yourself you can make some changes in society.
I think freedom of expression is a very powerful tool for people to be able to talk about pressing issues in our society, for example, what affects them, what they think needs to be changed. So freedom of expression allows them to speak up and talk about what needs to be talked about, and I think this way, step by step, we can have this significant change in society the more people are free to participate and engage in conversations.
I think it's very important, above all, to encourage dialogue, free speech dialogue, raising awareness. So I think this is mainly the things that we can do as young people to raise awareness in our social groups.
I think I try to be respectful with other people when I'm speaking of what I really think. And I try to listen to the others, I try to respect their ideas, and I think it's a good way to use my freedom of expression.
As a youth worker and trainer, we use a lot human rights education to work with young people and non-formal education. So I think through that we empower young people to take action and to have an active voice in their communities, in society in general, and have a bigger awareness of their rights as well.
I think if everyone has the freedom of expression, they feel more free and kind of like they are not restricted, so maybe they feel more welcome to be in one society or like in one group, if they can say what they think.
It seems evident for me that words can have consequences as bad or worse than physical violence, sometimes even causing lasting damage.
If we are not aware of what we say and how we say, we can create conflicts that are completely unnecessary and should be prevented.
Trauma that stays after the things you hear for a long time, or sometimes the things you hear that hurt you deeply, it's very, very intense. And if you've gone through something like that, you should look for help and know that you are not alone.
Sometimes physical violence hurts in the moment, and then 1 week later you forget. But words are difficult to forget. When someone says something to you that goes really deep, it really messes with your head, and it can be difficult to go past that.
At institutional level, we may say that there are topics that normally we are not talking about because we are defending what the youth associations might want to talk about. So FAJUB is representing associations of the district of Braga, and in this sense we are talking and developing conversations and projects and activities connected to what the youth associations might need, might want to develop about. At personal level, I would say that are missing some opinions from the youngsters that are not represented by the youth associations, and might have here lack of space to aggregate and to be part of the groups. That's why we are now facing in Portugal a lot of informal youth groups, in order to have this common theme and common topic. And we see in the news in Portugal that people are aggregating not in youth associations but in informal groups to defend their topics and their beliefs.
No, I don't feel the free expression is a risk, but sometimes I feel the people don't know the difference about what you can say, the way you can say the things. So sometimes that part maybe stay at the risk, on the line of the risk, I don't know.
I don't think that by limiting fake news and misinformation, we are limiting freedom of expression. By limiting fake news and misinformation, we are doing the work that communication is supposed to do.
When talking about freedom of expression, we always think about information and knowledge. So misinformation and fake news are against our right to receive this information and knowledge. So I think it comes together, really.
I come from a background where I'm used to speaking up and sometimes protesting about things that I and a lot of other people don't agree with. So I'm very used to okay, no matter what other people say, I have the right to do that.
I have the resources and the support to be able to say and fight for what I want to fight and what I want to say without bigger repercussions.
In Portugal, I don't really think I'm oppressed, but if I censor myself, it's for my safety also, and because I'm not ready yet to fight against that situation.
I think right now I am free. Sometimes I don't go so deep into some topics because of the social group that I am having some conversations.
I dare to do everything.
I believe that when it comes to my body and my image, I am free to express. It's important to note that in case where nudes are sent, consideration should be given to the other person, and I believe they should only be sent to someone who wants to receive them. It seems to me that no one has the right to invade another person's space like that.
Yes, it's a matter of consent.
I think the only thing I maybe wouldn't say, even if I want to, is when I'm trying to avoid the conflict.
I dare to talk about everything, but I'm careful about how I talk about it.
I feel free to express myself in different ways.
I think that sometimes I feel some fear of being judged because freedom of expression doesn't prevent me from being judged by other people. But there isn't any place, in a specific place, that I don't feel comfortable. I think maybe in social media, sometimes I'm a little bit more careful what I'm doing.
I limit my self-expression, but I am not oppressed.
We have an universal human rights chart. We have universal principle and values, and as soon as someone starts saying things that goes against other people's identities or other people's freedom of expression, then this person shouldn't have a room to talk about these things.
People should celebrate diversity. So it's one of the coolest things in a society is that we have different perspectives, different ideas. And if we are open to hear and to really listen someone's ideas, and we are not so close, we can become bigger and have a better society. Yeah, I think we should be open. I don't like the word tolerant. It seems a bit condescending, right? But I think we should be open to this diversity of opinions and ideas. And maybe if we don't see each other as competitors with different ideas, and maybe we can collaborate and cooperate towards a meaningful society with different perspectives, different worldviews, different cultural aspects. And this is what makes society a bit better, right?
Special attention should be given to the line that separates comments and different controversial opinions from what constitutes true hate speech. An effort should be made to understand when a situation generally provokes or incites the practice of violence, defamation or insults, in order to avoid suppressing mere difference of opinions.
We can very easily get into a consensus of what is repression or what is censorship and what is just making sure that we have similar rights, because we're in a society, right? So sometimes we have to abdicate a little bit, in my personal view, we have to abdicate a little bit of a right to expression in order to coexist peacefully with other people. And this is not necessarily bad, but it's just a way to ensure that all people can live with the same safety and with the same rights as everyone else.
People just need to know in their own head. They don't need laws to everything. You can make that on your own self. You don't need to law. If you do that, you will be punished. No, if you do that, you are a bad person. Just nobody will like you. Why you do that? Just for fun? No, it's not a good idea. You don't need a law to know that you just can use your head.
I think the laws should be more strict and they should have more exceptions, because when the protests happen, you should always take into consideration if the protesters are arming themselves, are arming others, and if they are not, they are just trying to be listened, and that's a good way to do it.
We can support organizations that defend freedom of expression, and always we encounter with situations with hate speech, we can also fight them and speak against them.
I think the answer will always be communicating, talking with people, making them understand what the laws say and what are our rights and what we can do if sometimes our opinion is censored by someone. So communicating, learning, having literacy about legal issues.
I think it's very important to encourage dialogue and to educate people on how to talk about this subject. I think it's very important for us to engage with like-minded organizations, because they can have more power to have this type of conversations, and they can have greater impact when we are addressing this type of subjects. Above all, I think it's important in our daily lives to include this type of communication and this type of education, even in our family, to making sure that we are not excluding anyone or like any social groups in our conversations, because everyone needs to be educated about this.
I think children and teenagers should have the same freedom of expression as adults, because they are also human beings, and in my opinion it should be a human right for everyone. So I think the opinion of or the speech of a child and a teenager is as important as the one of an adult, because a lot of times they even say like more the truth, because they don't try to hide.
I really think children and teenagers have the same rights and of free expression. However, I don't think they are respected as much as adult people. So it's something that we still have to work and hear more our children and our teenagers to ensure they have what they need when they need it. Not only when they are already adults, but already even when they are growing. So
I don't believe they are as respected as adults. Sometimes even as young adults, we tend to do it with younger people. I think that's also something that we are taught when growing up, that we should respect the oldest people, the elderly especially, because they are wiser and know better. But that doesn't mean that we don't have the right to express ourselves. And when we talk about freedom of expression, it should start in your home, with your family. So if you don't have that kind of rights, and if you are not respected when you speak in the first environments that you should, I think it will impact you as an active voice later in life.
It's important to foster the critical thinking of children. For example, parents have the duty to educate, but they also have the duty of listen their sons and their opinions.
I don't think that they are respected as much, but I think that they should be, because if we respect children, if we respect their ideas, maybe when they grow up, they will respect the other people that are around them. They will listen to them, respect their ideas, their perspectives, and that's freedom of expression. Is also respect other people.
Youngsters have the space to talk and to have the right of speech in different moments, and if the youngsters are not feeling confident in order to be with the right of speech, they might find a place in different places in the institution, in the Portuguese institution of youngsters, in the school, in the youth associations, in order to provide this common opinion, because for sure someone will have the same beliefs and the same ideas that you have.
They have the right to speak, they have the right to have their own voice. If that voice is listened, I have some questions about it. I think that in Portugal we are making the way for them to be heard, but we have a lot of problems around this problem, starting with the censorship that exists in the family context.
Children and the teenagers have the same rights, but we, the adults, don't have the respect for their speech. And we need to open our ears to hear what the kids want to say.
So the Portuguese Red Cross Youth has this value that and this structural strategy on youth empowerment, in the sense that we try for our youth leaders, youth volunteers to be allowed to speak their minds, speak their perspectives, speak their ideas, and then help them to make them into concrete actions, taking into account always our framework of our fundamental principles. So in very practical terms, we do actions like youth forums, youth events, capacity building workshops for youth leaders and youth volunteers, where we try to promote their critical thinking, and we try to give them voices on their needs, their perspectives, their priorities, so we can then also give them the tools and the education and the space for them to create projects for their communities, where they can turn their ideas into concrete actions. Also, in an educational purpose, we have different collaborations with schools, with local schools, where we also try to raise awareness on youngsters on topics of their interests, such as human rights and freedom of speech as well, and its importance on a society level. And also online, we promote different social media campaigns, also with media produced by young people, where we tackle different topics, such as human rights and freedom of speech and critical thinking and nonviolent communication as well.
At Conexão Jovem, we do a lot of local activities, making sure our youngsters are aware how they can fight the system, how they can be more active democratically, and also internationally, we try to share our good practices in Portugal.
So my organization is the Youth Center, and as you can see, not the people in the camera, but you, this organization is all about human rights. Our slogan is there is a safe place for all cultures, and I think they really work for that. And another thing is that when I did my internship here, they didn't obligate me to do something. They really wanted to hear my ideas, my thoughts, and for me to have a word in everything that happens here. So I think they do a great job.
In the association to which I belong, we emphasize the importance of everyone being heard and each of us being a force for positive change. We cannot aim to change the world without sharing our knowledge and opinions, so we create space for this. In this regard, we organize, for example, debates and other activities so that everyone can contribute. Being part of any association consists precisely in exerting our freedom of expression. It is precisely by being a member of an association that I can share opinions and useful information in this cause. It is through sharing the contributions of everyone that a better society is built. Obviously, when belonging in an association, there are situations where one must consider the collective, but even so, personal and individual opinions of each member should be never ignored.
I believe that if we are together, if we are in a group, we are stronger. That's also why I think power relates to this human rights. So if you are in a collective of people that have some ideas as yours, even if you have different opinions in other topics, you are stronger if you speak together, and your voice will be more impactful. So I believe that in my work, I can make a bigger difference right now than when I was just me, an individual speaking by myself. In our action and our work with young people, we intend to empower them into having these rights and feeling free to express their opinions, voice their ideas. So I believe that it's a very important path through non-formal education and through peer education to help them feel more confident in speaking out, have better public speaking skills, and in that way be more active in their communities and society overall.
I think we give like a space for young people to meet and to talk about topics, so we kind of give them like a place to form like a group and to have a voice. And also the human rights are one of the important things of the youth center. So it's like the freedom of speech is one of the human rights, so we give them like a place.
The end of the day, when the time is finished, you go out to the school of the work and you can go to my organization or any other boxing team, you can be free. You can punch the bag, you can punch the guy what you're sparring with, you know. But I'm not talking about a violation like punch and be a bad person. No, you can be free. You can be all mind free. Like your heart will start speeding, you know, doing exercises. And just talk, because in sports it's the place where you can make the real friends. They have the same ideas as you, because in the streets it's very, very, very low risk that you find the person like you. But in an organization like a boxing team, it's always need to be I don't say equal, but partial equal person like you, because if they do box, they have the same ideas as you and they want to do the same as you.
In our organization, Rise Raising Youth for Sustainable Evolution, we do some activities that can promote young people to improve their knowledge about sustainability. Actually, we are doing an event next month that is gathering young people, university students, more than 60, here in Juventude, Braga. And we are providing them moments of discussion. They will discuss their ideas, they will improve their knowledge in different topics, and then they will be divided into groups and they will create an idea. So they have to discuss different opinions about some topic, and they will create an idea to help achieve some of the sustainable development goals in Portugal.
At this moment, as a researcher, we try to do like the research, the activism, and the promotion of information and decomplication of information, so information is accessible for everyone. Either would it be regarding like intersectionality, which is a very like hard topic for people to understand, or talking about, for example, promoting rights of the Roma community or LGBTQ people. So we try to make information accessible for people that usually don't have access to information.
As youngsters and in the institutions that we are part, we were part of multiple organizations and multiple projects around Europe. We were part of the No Hate Speech project from the Council of Europe that were before this one, that is the democratic life, about the democratic life. So basically we are promoting these activities at national level in cooperation with the Portuguese Institute of Youth and Sports, and with the National Federation of Youth Associations, in the promotion with the youngsters in schools, in youth associations, of this no hate speech, and this providing and promoting the freedom of speech about all the topics.
In the Red Cross, adults or the professionals will support the children and help them to make the change.
First of all, when we are in an organization, we have more power to talk about our beliefs, our ideals, because we have greater impact, because we are a collective, and we can generate a lot of impact through our communication, to our social media, to our education moments inside our organization. At the same time, we can have some liabilities when we are talking about our beliefs, because we need to respond to a common belief. But I truly believe that if we are associated with the right organizations, the ones that share the same beliefs that we share, I think it's not a problem.
I think being part of an association allows me and everyone else that takes part in an association to be more of an active citizen. And the more we are active citizens, the more we are exerting our freedom of expression.
In Portugal, climate activists have been very active. They have been doing a lot of disruptions, and now they are occupying schools and universities. And today, because we are discussing freedom of expression, we are discussing one specific case in the Psychology University in Lisbon, where 3 students were detained by the police, and the police was called by the director of the school. And they were occupying the school, so they were staying in school for as long as it took for their claims to be heard, claims that are obviously related to climate justice and climate action. And they were invited to leave the school for several times. They didn't leave. It's part of their protest not to leave. And they decided to do this lecture, this open lecture about the science behind climate change. And while they were doing it, they were detained by the police and then there was a vigil of other students supporting them until they were freed, and they will be facing charges of disobedience, and we don't know what else, it's still not decided. So this is the case we are going to speak about regarding freedom of expression. How do you youngsters feel about these occupations of schools and the decision of the school director to call the police on these students protesting?
So I tend to agree with the occupation. I think usually when we think about activism, we think maybe like demonstrations on the streets, but we've come to a point that we're quite desensitized to it. So sometimes without causing property damage and without disrupting social and civil life, it's quite important to bring attention to these types of movement and different initiatives that are still peaceful, but they cause an impact. The truth is we are talking about this now, and there have been several protests regarding climate action and climate change that we don't see on the news. So action has to be taken in a way that people are actually heard. And we were discussing this before, how we always say that children are the future and youngsters are the future, but when they do these kinds of things, they are too young, they don't understand reality, and we kind of come to this contradiction where we want them to take action and be active, take change. We promote political activism and engagement in communities, and when teenagers or students, youngsters start actually showing up for the cause they believe in, we tend to cut them at their feet and not give them space to demand what they believe it's right.
Do you believe that this was a violation of their freedom of expression, or that they were acting in a way that needed action from the director and the police?
It was a violation because, first of all, universities should be a hub for this type of conversations. Is it in schools, universities, wherever, that these type of conversations should take place and people should be informed? So, of course, it was a violation. And school claimed the situation, saying that they were having political conversations, but this is not a political conversation. This is a daily life conversation that all of us should be aware of. So I think it was not activism with damage or destruction. It was activism with purpose, and they create impact, and it was the purpose of it. So I truly believe that we should start talking about this violation of freedom.
So for you, I would like to ask, even if it was a political conversation, do you think, what do you think? Do you think that changes things? And if they were more disruptive than they were, if they were like stopping the way to some rules, or not letting people inside the school or something, do you think that would justify an action by the director and the police?
I was actually going to add that even if it was political conversations, they should be taken by young people, and create a safe space for this type of conversations to be had with a lot of people. I think that they did not take any action that justified this action. I think that is an attack to freedom of speech. I think that it would be justified if there were taken other measures that would put at harm other people or themselves, but that was not the case. So I think that it was an attack at freedom of expression.
Do you agree that there are limits to what they can do?
I generally think that in this case it was a question of oppression. I really think that it's important to realize where's the line between peaceful lecture that we give on a university versus when you are vandalizing the property of others. And for me, this kind of activism sometimes puts in cause what we are doing in a more peaceful way. So it's really important to have in consideration the context of what we are doing and making sure we are doing different things in different situations, and try always to be the more correct possible within the context we are.
I had the chance to discuss these protests with an activist from Libya, and in Libya you have no freedom of speech or expression, and you cannot protest on the streets, it's forbidden. So she called us spoiled, because we are so used to having this freedom that we use it with no contest, we just use it. And playing on what you said, that we get desensitized. She then went to a protest where climate activists closed the road. And that changed the way she saw the protest, because suddenly they were not just using their freedom of expression, they were taking it further. They were risking their freedom by being disobedient to the law, and they were being disruptive. But she saw value in that, because suddenly a whole street was stopped, and the police was there, and the government had to intervene, and media had to cover the issue. What do you think about this view of things? When we disobey, it's more impactful, but we have to keep in mind that we have to create a safe space for these subjects to be discussed. And we can create these spaces by inviting a lot of media press to be present at the moment and try that our opinions be exposed in television, social media, and a lot of different online platforms. I don't know what you think about it.
I want to add something, because I really think we have this type of privilege that we can speak up if we not agree with something. But obviously, it's not just because we have this privilege that we are spoiled. I think everyone should have access to this and to speak their truth, no matter where, no matter what. Taking into consideration, obviously,
It's not a privilege, it's a right.
yes,
Exactly. A different way of seeing things. You should exercise your rights, right? I've also had the chance to ask the climate activists in question, why do they do these things that cross the line of what you said? So the line of property destruction and the line of public disruption and disobedience. And what they say is they already did the rallies on the streets. They wrote in newspapers constantly. They are published everywhere. They have really strong social media. They did videos, they did marketing campaigns. They protested in front of the companies that are most polluting in Portugal and in the world. They closed the most pollutant factory in Portugal. They sat down on television with the Minister of Environment. They occupied their schools last year, and this year they're doing it again. And they're still not being heard, and nothing changed. Nothing accelerated. So we have many things being done. Portugal is on the front of the political battle on climate change, but nothing accelerated. And the main ask is to accelerate our transition. What do you respond to this? Do you think this justifies crossing the lines or no?
Yes, I think that you need to cross some lines if you don't have the space or the freedom to go through the normal process, or if things are not being done, because the purpose is not just to talk, is to act. And if we are not acting as a society, as government, then you need to cross the line to create impact and to generate the message throughout the society overall. So I think it's the purpose of the activism, without, of course, putting people in situations of risk overall, but you need to cross some lines to generate a greater impact and promote your message.
The questions we did individually, everyone said that children and teenagers have the same rights of freedom of expression as adults. Obviously, it's written in several international agreements and in our Portuguese law, but they have more and more spaces to speak, but they are not actually heard, and their ideas are not put into action. How do you connect those answers that you all agreed on with this topic of the climate activism that we are living through now? Because we have climate activists on television almost every now.
I think it's quite a hard answer to give, because there's this balance where sometimes, like, when they are on the streets, oftentimes we see these kids and these youngsters and even older people being called spoiled, that they still use their cars, that they still do this and that.
They have an iPhone.
And there's this like separation between what's actually possible and what these activists are trying to do. And I think people tend to like put this to an extreme. They are not demanding something that will harm us in the future. I think what older generations sometimes don't understand, that we are people that have been through several economical crises, that we have been through, like we are facing climate change and we are seeing it every day, that we see our people like us having their rights taken away. Like just this year here in Braga, there was a demonstration that could not go out on the streets because it was claimed that we did not take care of all the papers and all the documents, and the police could not find time to vigil the march, but they could find time to show up to find everyone. And I think that there needs to be this alliance with the people, social institutions, the communities, and with the government. It cannot just be written and for it to happen in Lisbon or in Porto when most of us don't live in those areas. So, and there needs to be this work done to create awareness in not just in schools but in universities. Like, what is freedom of speech if the mean that it's most necessary to promote knowledge, to promote information, to promote debate? If we have students being arrested in university, what does this mean? Like just 50 years after 25th of April happened, 50 years after we have our democracy. I perceive university as a space of freedom, knowledge, where we can exchange, when we can be daring, and having students in the capital of a country being arrested for disobedience regarding climate action is truly shocking you. Yeah, frightening.
Actually, historically, we had no arrests in universities for protesting since the 60s. It happened last year, exactly the same situation. Another college, but the same university. Two students glued themselves to the floor of the school, and they were detained because they were glued to the floor of the school. Two people cannot stop anything, right? You can go through them, you can just walk around. So they are not even disturbing the flow of people, and they were arrested. And now we have the same thing in the psychology college. So historically, this didn't happen in Portugal. Do you fear that freedom of expression is at risk in Portugal?
I think we are losing it a little bit, yes.
And is it because we are so desensitized to some things, and so we are treating these rights as privilege instead of rights? You think that's it?
Yes. Yeah, I think we can see that in our vote percentage. We just don't think that we have one of the lowest voting percentages in the European Union. And I think that shows something. I think after after 74, there should have been this work done that promotes democracy and civil action. And we should be taught about our educational system, because for us to be able to express our opinions, we have to have knowledge, or then they're populism. And when this work is not being done, we are believing that people will learn by themselves, will not make the mistakes of the past. And just this year, we had yesterday or before yesterday, the Netherlands elected extreme right, a fascist party. Argentina did the same thing. Germany is at risk of doing so.
Our government just fell. So we are going to have elections soon.
Yeah, information is power, and if we don't give freedom of expression is a right that does not come having the right to your own name, is something that has to be promoted and it has to be incentivized, and we have to work with every generation, because I also do believe that elderly have the right to have this information, and it's not turning accessible for them. So it's a matter of putting into work and into action what is in the Constitution, as you were saying.
For example, for me, I think we should work the political issue also in our schools, in our education program, and we haven't done it. And if we did it, it would be way easier for us to manifest or to create actions or to be more active politically in our society every day.
Yes, it's way more important for the schools, universities to make statements about education, how to vote, how to act, how to speak up, than statements about things that you cannot say, because you will touch topics that we are not ready to answer or to act on. So I think it's very important to think about the real statements that our institutions and government overall are taking, to make sure that we are being very rational when we are putting our confidence vote in someone or in something.
Can we just end with each of you making a case for what you hope other young people like you would do now that they've listened to this conversation?
I think they should use their voice and be active in their society. That can start locally, doing something locally that will improve their one.
Yeah, to explore their voices, to learn how to use their voices into improving the world, and starting with small things, being a part of an association, creating a community on an online platform, talking about problems that they think about and they have a perspective on, and being able to listen. Try to have conversations with other people, listen what they are trying to say, and gather those informations to be a more knowledgeable person in the world.
Yeah, I would say for them to not be scared. When we get into like activism, associativism, we always face people that have way more information than what we do when we start. And it's very like, there's a bit of elitism associated with politics and with university studies. And it's normal to be frightened. It's normal to have questions to ask. It's normal to be insecure. But it's important to not be afraid and to conquer our spaces and to say what we have to say. Because what we are seeing is nobody believes in their voice, so no action is being taken. That is taking us nowhere. So let's do something, even if we're scared, because we are.
Yes. The bottom line is we don't know everything. So the first step is to keep us always informed and to explore the news. And to make sure that we have relevant conversations and that we are spread relevant information in our daily conversations. Above all, to take action and to not expect anyone to take action from us and for our future, and to raise awareness in our family, with our friends, with everyone. We cannot stop having these type of conversations like we are having today because in the past, we didn't have this opportunity, and in the future, we don't know if we will have this opportunity. So we need to act now.
Thank you so much. This is the end of the Studio Star episode in Braga.
Studio Star.